Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome to Fairface Fail Productions. So today we're going to be doing the rear master cylinder rebuild on my Suzuki DR350. So this will apply to all years of the DR350, and it pretty much applies to doing a master cylinder rebuild on most motorcycles, from pretty much a SV650 to these dirt bikes and other things. Very similar. So I hope you guys enjoy. We're going to start draining the fluid and everything else. The tools that you need are so pretty much some wrenches. I have a Harbor Freight vacuum pump, hand pump, that helps quite a bit. I think it was under 20 bucks. I think I paid $14 for it, honestly. And it works real well for getting the fluid out of there quicker. You can certainly drain it the old-fashioned way. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But we'll go kind of step by step on what we're doing. And we're going to start with draining all the fluid out of the system. And then we're going to take apart the hoses and master cylinder. And we'll go from there. All right, guys, so went to drain the old fluid out of here, and the front went pretty well, just replacing the fluid, pretty simple. The rear did not. Basically, you change the fluid, and then we pressed down on the pedal. I'm guessing the seals just finally gave out, or there was something else in there, maybe a bad reaction with the new fluid. I don't know, but nonetheless, you can see here, that goes all the way down. We did about everything we could to bleed it, so pretty sure the seals are shot. That's pretty given all the indications there. So at the rear here, if you've never done a brake job of any sort, this is where we drain the brake fluid from. We're going to use this little hand pump contraption here, put that over that nipple, and we're going to loosen it. Then I'll start pumping it. It'll suck the fluid out of there. And in this case, we're going to suck air into the system. Normally, if you're just flushing, you're just going to keep putting clean fluid in until you're getting clean fluid out. But at that point, we're going to take off this rear master cylinder and start tearing it apart so we can rebuild it. Also helping today, I have my brother Paul and Taylor, the wolf dog. If you're into dogs, don't forget to go check out my other channel, Taming the Tamascan. So cool stuff about wolf dogs and other things and entertainment. So definitely appreciate some subs over there. All right, guys, so this cotter pin on the back side of where the brake handle or the brake lever is, that just needs to come out, and then the pin in the center will slide out, and you can get this whole master brake assembly off. All right, on the top here, you're going to have a copper washer on the bottom and a copper washer on the top. You'll see in the rebuild kit that it'll come with new crush washers, so you'll want to use the new ones when you do it. But this on top, we use, I think, a 12 millimeter. So a lot of people like to replace these brake lines with steel braided. There's nothing wrong with that, but I don't see these old lines as looking in too bad a shape, so we'll keep them on here for the time being. So if I have any further problems, we'll go to steel braided. Yep. Well, it shouldn't be too bad. Those crush washers usually make it not too bad. Not bad. All right, and that's how that comes off there. Now, we had stuck the Allen bolts back in there just to hold it down while we were wrenching that off. Turned out it wasn't on there super hard, so you may or may not need to do that, but that's an idea. If you're having a hard time getting that bolt off, you can leave these secured, give you a good mounting point. So the rebuild kit that I'm using today is an all balls. This one is a 18-10007. So there are a few different kits that are listed to work with the DR350's rear, and this is one. So it's listed out on Amazon pretty easily to find, so I don't expect you to have too many problems. But one of the big tools that you're going to need to get this master cylinder apart is snap ring pliers, which also can be found on Amazon for really cheap, right around 10 bucks for a decent pair of them. You may only use once, or you may need again. But yeah, I highly recommend using some snap ring pliers, otherwise it'll be very frustrating. You'll see here in a minute. All right, so now we're just gonna remove the reservoir hose from its little clamping spots on the bike. Pretty easy to do. Just wiggle on its way out of there.
Turn, turn, turn. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And there we go. Something pretty quick coming out.
Yeah, that's okay. That's what the cardboard's for. And there we have it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and tear apart the rear master cylinder. So there's a snap ring on the back side with this plastic piece here. I'm imagining there's probably going to be an O-ring in here. Expertly done. These are Snap Ring Work Pro tool set on Amazon. I believe they usually sell between like 15 and 20 bucks, so this is a great kit to get if you need some snap ring pliers. So, did you pull that pull out of there? Or? Yeah, you can go ahead. Other side, you're going to pull this boot out that he's pulling out there. And then underneath that boot is going to be a snap and another snap ring. Yep, right underneath there. Those might work, or the curved ones if they don't. There we go. And then that whole assembly should come up after that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to try. Oh, yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Oh, there we go. So we managed to push the piston out. That looks lovely. That is all gummed up, although that's interesting how they have it sealed in there. But there is a lot of gunk in there. That's probably why we weren't getting any flow. Hard to tell, but you can see probably why this wasn't working no more. There is all kinds of junk all the way up in there. Probably perturbing from any pressure being able to be created. It's probably, at some point, I'm assuming somebody might have got some dirt or sand in the reservoir. That's what it looks like. So we're having a hard time getting this plastic side piece off of here. We might just flush the whole thing and not break this, because we don't want to break that side plastic piece, because that would be a real bummer. And at that point, I would just replace the whole cylinder. So we might just clean it up as best we can and not break that. Yeah, those are a pain in the butt to get off. These rubber seals around the piston. So a flathead screwdriver, the old ones, obviously you don't care about them. So whatever way gets them off there is pretty much fine. Try not to damage the piston in the process, I guess, too badly. But on the other bikes, I think I pried it up and used a pair of dikes to cut them. That one seemed a lot weaker. Cool. Guess we can just drop that in there. So what we're going to do is basically drop this stuff in there and soak them in some brakes parts cleaner for a second. Alright, so we just took an old Tupperware and basically filled it up with some brake cleaner, sprayed everything off. It looks much better than it did, so we're going to let it soak for a couple of minutes, clean up that piston real good. And then we'll all slap everything back on it and put it back together. Cool, so here we had a bunch of extra gunk still on the piston, so we're going to use the Dremel with a plastic wheel brush on it to clean it up a little bit more. If you don't want to have to worry about this, or you think yours is going to be real bad, they sell kits with the new piston in it, so you don't have to deal with this. Most of the time, though, I found when I take these apart, they're not quite this gummed up.
Messing with my head again. You had your heart set on me, but these feels, they come and go, and they come so easily. Tell me what it is about you that I can't forget, but you're breaking down my walls again, just to set me free.
Alright guys, switch to a metal wheel very lightly so we can get off some of the remaining stuff that was on there real good.
Why do I, baby, why do I love the touch but never love the feeling? Why do I, baby, why do I love the way you are, would always leave me? Why do I, baby, why do I love the touch but never love the feeling?
Alright guys, so here we go. We've got everything kind of lined up on how it's going to go back together. So it's not too terribly complicated, but there's some things you got to get the right direction. So I'll just kind of go from one side to the other. So starting with the spring, new spring is going to face its skinny side towards the end of the piston there. It'll mate right up to the edge there. Then we've got our first seal here. You'll notice that this one is the fatter looking seal. Obviously this is the skinnier end of the butt here, so it's going to go on there. And this seal is going to face open side towards the spring. So it'll face that way. I'm going to set that back down. And then this side of the piston is going to have a seal up here as well. And that seal is going to face the exact same way. So its open side is going to face towards the spring. And then going forward, this is the actual plunger. And then It's going to have a washer here that doesn't come off. You've got the new rubber boot that we're going to be putting on there. Then you're going to have a nut, this whole lever housing here, and then a nut behind there. Then also we have the snap rings. So this is the new snap ring that's going to go onto the plastic fitting on the inside here. Now, like I said, we couldn't get this out of here, and I don't want to break it. So I think we flushed it out real good with brake cleaner and everything else, and it wasn't leaking previously. So we're just going to not break it and put a new snap ring on there. This O-ring would go in there, so if it gets yours off, I'd throw a new O-ring in there definitely. And then this is the snap ring that goes at the back end. So basically we're just going to put it all back together as one, and we'll film that as well. But once you get this back together, it should be as good as new. All right, just wanted to show a close-up of how this piston should look. So those seals are facing outward towards the spring, and should be ready to all go back in there. It looks a lot better than it did when we first started, that's for sure. Cool. All right, so we're gonna throw a little bit of brake fluid on the piston just to lube it up as we get it in there, because these are going to be much tighter new seals. So you'll want to get some brake fluid on there. So we're going to push that plunger in there. At the same time, you're going to get the snap ring in there. So you want that, of course, that washer down in there needs to be past the snap ring lip. You'll see it you'll see it and feel it as you're putting the ring in there. All right, so that's how you get the snap ring in there, and you make sure it's in that groove all the way around, and that's going to be what's holding your brake in. Now the boot's going to go up over top of this screw, just like that. All right, there we go, and that's pretty much how you get that together. It's not super complicated. It just takes a few steps to get it in and out. Our last step here that we've got to do is put this other snap ring in on the other side. There we go. Is. Cool. All right, and there's that snap ring fitting in there. All good to go.
Leave that bracket loose, like you were saying. You going?
Yep, going. So we're gonna fill up the reservoir and then start pumping.
It is.
See, I told you. So you see, once you get this all cleaned up, it'll suck fluid through quite fast.
It is.
All right, there we go. I see all the gunk in there. So we did have to go back because we weren't getting any fluid flow. So this was definitely the problem. And we decided that either we're going to break this piece and get it all cleaned out or not. So that's okay. We'll let it drip there. So definitely would recommend taking it fully apart and cleaning it, because that, I think, was going to be our biggest problem. All right, guys, so we finally got some brake pressure in this. So lo and behold, the main issue that was wrong with the whole brake cylinder, which I don't regret taking it apart because it was really nasty, but it was definitely this feeder hose from the reservoir in here. We popped that loose, and there was all kinds of corroded grossness, and it was plugging up the two holes into the cylinder. So that was our main problem. We didn't want to break that plastic piece, and we didn't in the end, but it definitely felt like it. Like we had to put a lot of force on there. So I kind of figured we cleaned it up and did what we could initially, and got it on here and was going to see if it flowed and worked. It didn't. So I figured if I broke the plastic piece, then I would either get a replacement or just replace the whole cylinder and brake lines. But now we have good brake pressure. So you'll know that by when I put my foot on there, nice and stiff. So I need to hook up the brake sensor still and kind of clean it up. But it's a pretty simple process. Once you get the fluid in there, you use the bleeder and you suck it through, press down on the brake pedal, keep some vacuum on it. And that's pretty much how you keep that process going. And if you're not getting any brake pressure as you're pressing down on it with fluid and stuff in there, then chances are one of your ports coming in from this feeder line is clogged and not getting fluid into the rear half of the piston. So yeah, hopefully that helps you guys out. It was my mistake to make, and we tried it out. So take my advice, just take the whole thing apart and clean it up real good. All right, guys, so we just finished up. I got everything cleaned up. The rear brakes are working great on the DR350, like brand new, way better than they were even when I got it. So totally the issue is all kinds of corrosion and crap was in the brake lines, and I would have saved myself a lot of trouble if I would have gotten new brake lines, as well as taking apart the whole master cylinder at that one time. Now we were real worried about breaking that plastic piece and then having to go back to square one. So we figured, hey, we would spray it out as best we could with carb cleaner and see if that got it all through. Truthfully, what probably happened is it cleaned it out in the moment, and then once it sucked a little bit through, it took a whole bunch of that gunk right back into that little porthole. And that porthole is only like 1 millimeter in diameter, maybe 2 millimeters, real small. So yeah, that's totally a thing. If you do this yourself, take the whole thing apart. If you break it, I would just get a whole new master cylinder on one of these old ones and save yourself a little bit of time. This took us a little while, but you got to see us taking it apart, rebuilding it, and have a good idea of what you're getting yourself into. If it gets too crazy or it gets too hard, then honestly, buying a whole new one with some new brake lines is pretty simple. So keep that in mind too. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Really appreciate you all watching my videos, but we'll catch you next time. Ferret Face out.